What's up, everyone? Another Sunday, another Instagram Live chat. This week, going to be joined by Natty, Peterkin from Cassus and his new project here. Just going to be having a little chat with them and just find out what their new project's all about and go from there. We'll just wait for them to join in the chat as always, and we'll get this ball rolling. So, unfortunately, you have to sit. Oh, sorry, my connection seemed to go for a second there. Yeah, just gonna. We'll get going.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Not too bad. How's
I'm
things?
just before we start talking, am I sideways? Do I need to turn this round?
Yeah, you are sideways.
Okay, right, okay. I've never done an Instagram live. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're good.
Great. Okay, we're good.
How's
Um,
things?
things are pretty good, thanks. Yeah. I'm sure like most of us, um, I'm my year's gone very differently to how I expected it to
Yeah,
go. So yeah, I kind of had to make the most of things and change my plans as things went along. But yeah, good,
yeah.
like better than I would have expected.
I
How
guess
about
that's
yourself?
kind of a good kind of place to kind of start. Like, did you have much kind of like booked in plans and stuff for, I guess, the first kind of 6 months of the year before all this shit kind of happened?
Yeah, well, this summer we had three Cassus tours already booked that all got cancelled because of lockdown. And we were also meant to record an album in July, in no, this month in June, and
Yeah.
that also had to get cancelled. So in terms of the band stuff, we had four pretty fairly big things planned that all ended up not happening. So yeah, that was a bit frustrating, all the kind of wasted effort that went into that. But the plus side was we all ended up with a bit of extra free time to do other stuff that we hadn't had time to, I suppose.
Yeah. So
Mm.
is album three pretty much written then?
No, not quite. It's about maybe about halfway, roughly. We've got a few songs for it, but as soon as lockdown started, we weren't able to do physical band practices, and
Yeah.
we've always been a bit of a I guess we've always been a bit old-fashioned, at least in that band, in the way that we all did most of our songwriting in person in rehearsal studios,
Yeah.
playing live together. So we've done a handful of like Skype practices, and I think we tried Zoom and Google Hangouts or something like that. Oh no, I think we tried uh, I can't remember what one it was. We tried one of the ones that's designed for gaming, like Twitch or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was Twitch. I think it was another one. Um, but where you can do like one person do a screen share and like sort of all try and give input on the writing. So we did a little bit of writing like that, but we were all kind of struggling to make it work that way. So
Yeah.
kind of yeah, the band's kind of gone on a back burner really the last couple of months.
Yeah.
So
But have you, I guess, in like you've still obviously not necessarily kind of been writing as such, but like have you kind of still been kind of keeping tabs on what you want to do once things are kind of eased up and looking likely to start playing again, getting in practice spaces? Have those conversations been happening?
yeah, a little bit. I think yeah, I think the rough plan is once lockdown's completely over, we're just gonna have to sort of try and pick up where we left off. Maybe rebook some of the things for next year that we were going to do this year, like the tours and the festivals we are going to play.
Yeah.
We were hoping to do a tour with Frail Body from the States, and we were planning to play Miss the Stars Festival and the last Crimea River Festival,
Yeah.
which which would have been really exciting. But of course, all of it's been cancelled. So we're hoping that maybe some of these plans can just be delayed by a year and even then. But we'll just have to see what everyone's able to do.
Yeah. And just in terms of kind of like, we'll get on to your sort of new project in a minute, but just in terms of
Yeah.
like yourself, like what have you kind of been doing during lockdown to kind of keep yourself preoccupied and kind of keep yourself busy, sort of thing?
Um, I can't speak for the other band members so much, but for myself, the time's gone surprisingly fast, really. I've used a lot of the time to teach myself about home recording music, which is going to be a really useful skill for general use in future and for being able to do my own projects. But yeah, aside from that, I've been doing a little bit of freelance work as well. I was teaching because I'm also a designer and
Yeah.
illustrator as a freelancer. Um, so the jobs I had lined up for the sort of the early part of the year when lockdown started, unfortunately, all got cancelled because they were. Um, I was going to be doing several projects that were Arts Council funded,
Okay.
and the UK Arts Council withdrew all their funding for regular project grants so that they could redirect it into like an emergency relief scheme,
Right.
which is good that they've got an emergency relief scheme, but for people like me who had these projects planned, um, suddenly my books were worryingly empty, so I had to
Yeah.
yeah ended up having to sign on to Universal Credit and but I've also managed to sort of set up a small online art class because I was doing evening classes as part of my freelance work, and I've got a handful of people who are doing those with me once a week via Skype. So that's
Oh,
been
that's
keeping me
cool.
occupied. Yeah. So making material for those has been keeping me occupied some of the time. Um, yeah, between that and working on music and then just having a little bit of downtime as well, it's been nice to have a bit more free time than normal.
Yeah.
So I've just been kind of yeah, just been kind of like hanging out a little bit more than I usually do, sort of going on walks with my girlfriend and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's about it really.
So in terms of like the art classes sort of thing, like what kind of thing are you doing? Like, are you sort of like showing techniques and things like that, or have you kind of got sort of like a set structure of what you do? Like, how does that all work?
It's a bit of a mixture. I kind of they're my own classes that I just sort of put together week by week. So
Yeah.
it's just a mixture of whatever things I think might be interesting for people. It's a kind of entry level sort of introduction to illustration course, and people don't need to have had a college course or a degree in the field or anything. So I try and make it all stuff that is quite accessible and sort of give them give them sort of exercises and challenges to do that you can just sort of pick up and try out without having to kind of do much preparation, so that they can just experiment with things and try new techniques, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's usually to do with like drawing or sort of concept development, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
And have you kind of been like, as you say, a lot of like the freelance stuff has kind of gone by the wayside, but have you still been doing your own stuff like commission based or anything like that at all?
Um, Unfortunately, in the last couple of months, I haven't had any new commissions come in. But I haven't been actively sort of advertising
Yeah, yeah.
myself for them either. So it's I know it's partly my own fault that I haven't had much come in. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something I need to get back on the ball with and sort of start sending feelers out to people again. But it at least to me it felt like it might be a bit pointless for the first few months of lockdown when sort of design jobs are kind of by a lot of people considered to be something that's they're like a luxury extra thing that a
Yeah.
lot of people is one of the first things they cut out of a budget. Well, I mean, for a lot of things they are essential, but people are cutting back on expenses in general. So I think there's been less going around.
Yeah.
So
That's
I've just been working on some of my own bits and bobs and trying to post semi regularly online, but yeah, that's not my strong point, posting regularly online.
No, that's fair. And obviously, if we get on to kind of the new projects that you've kind of embarked on, I guess, sort of, well, it's been released since lockdown and stuff, but is
Mm.
Tear something that you've kind of always wanted to sort of play around with? Like, where did the idea of this kind of side of things come from?
I've kind of vaguely wanted to do a project like this for probably on and off for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
I think I only really seriously started sort of mentally planning for it, or having a really strong concept of it being a thing I was going to do, maybe about 2 years ago. Um, but basically, it's yeah. Sorry, could you repeat the question again? I can't remember exactly what you said.
just kind of like where the kind of idea kind of came from, really.
Hmm. Yeah. I guess it came from I kind of got into music that's sort of, guess you could call it like emo trap or something like that.
Yeah,
I got into that kind of music quite a few years ago when I first heard Nothing Nowhere in 2015, and thought it was really kind of a really fresh take on that kind of style of music, and got quite excited by his stuff. And then I think the thing that really triggered in my head the possibility of doing it myself was when I discovered another artist in that kind of scene called Sully, spelled Sullii, and that's when I went to see Nothing Nowhere play in London a couple of years ago, and Sully
yeah.
was supporting, and I hadn't heard of him
Okay.
before. He was fairly local. I think he lives in somewhere nearish to London, or somewhere in England at least. And I listened to his first EP that year. I think it was 2018, called 42, and it's just like a 5 song EP that's really kind of minimal, stripped back, kind of sort of like sad, ambient, reflective kind of sort of singer-songwriter stuff. And it
Yeah,
was the whole thing was pretty much just done by him and his friend who does the production, and they kind of collaboratively produce this thing. But what that really the reason that was a real turning point for me was because I realized how kind of accessible it can be to just sort of start writing your own songs sort
yeah,
of out of nowhere, or like just find one other person to collaborate with, and like you can do a lot of this production digitally. So maybe like even if you've just got like one sampled instrument, or like a guitar loop that you've written and recorded, you can then program the drums and use synths and things like that, and still come out with like really high quality sounding emotional music. And I think listening to that EP was kind of the turning point for me, realizing how much they could achieve with so little technical equipment, and
yeah.
it was very very sort of to the point. And it's kind of from there where I had that realization, and then started looking into it. Gradually started buying bits of equipment and software over the last couple of years, because money is, I'm sure for most musicians, is often one of the main obstacles. So I had to
Yeah,
kind of gradually get enough equipment to do recording bit by bit. So like a microphone here and a stand there, and a pop filter here. Um, and eventually, by early this year, I had just enough stuff to start home recording vocals. So it was quite lucky timing, actually, for me, that I kind of just got all the bits when lockdown started.
yeah. And so, in terms of like actually kind of getting the idea from being something that you had in your head onto like recording and stuff, did you kind of go through like in terms of kind of like the way that you put it together? Because I don't know, you'd need to kind of see research like how to do these things and stuff. So did you kind of like go through tutorials and stuff to like teach yourself how to do it? Like how did you kind of come about the actual kind of technical aspects of it?
Yeah, YouTube was my best friend for that,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, loads of YouTube tutorials about how to record, how to mix. I still haven't learned how to master yet. Um, for the first couple of songs I've done with this project, actually, I paid the producer who produce that Sully EP to master my songs, just
Oh,
because
okay.
I just wanted to, because I was spending a bit less money than normal in lockdown. I had a bit of extra cash, and I thought actually maybe it's worth investing in just
Yeah.
getting somebody who knows what they're doing to master it, so I can just start releasing at least a couple of songs. So yeah, I'm still in the process of learning that stuff basically, but I've been watching lots of YouTube tutorials, kind of going on forums when I get stuck on how to do something, and kind of Googling the question, seeing if other people have asked the same thing, and then looking at the responses. And at first, it was really, really tough because I had to just open up a DAW and just start figuring out from scratch what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. And I think
Yeah.
the learning curve for that stuff is probably steepest right at the start, because you just need to figure out what you need to do and what you need to know without yet knowing what those things are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, YouTube tutorials are a huge help, and there's so many really good ones on there. 10 years ago, I think it would have probably have been a lot harder to do that way, because there was just not as much of that video content around. You
Yeah.
probably would have had to read more in-depth manuals or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very grateful to all these YouTube tutorials that are out there, because it's mainly them that I've relied on.
Yeah. And because like the reason I ask, because I kind of dabbled with it maybe about 2 years ago, and like
Mhm.
I'm very much a person of that mindset. If I can't do it straight away, then I'll give up with it quite quickly. So like for you, was it kind of, did you enjoy that process, or was it quite frustrating that like you couldn't get an end product straight away, or did you enjoy the kind of learning curve of things?
I think it was probably a little bit of both, to be honest. I can definitely relate to how you felt, because especially when you're first starting, the steepness of the learning curve is quite off-putting and can be intimidating, and it can be really frustrating if you're just trying to do something that seems simple and you
Yeah.
have to spend ages figuring out what you need to know to be able to make it do what you want it to do. And I definitely had a few days like that where I just kind of, I'd just gotten stuck on one too many things, and I just had to bin it off for the day
Yeah.
and give
Yeah.
myself a bit of a break from it. But at the same time, it's when I started actually seeing the results in evidence of my songs gradually coming together and sounding more and more like a properly produced song. I think that gave me the motivation to keep sticking at it, because I could see tangible results were
Mm.
within reach if I just kind of kept sticking away at it. So I think I would have found it a lot harder, to be honest, if it wasn't lockdown and I was distracted by having lots of other commitments, like having to work more, having to work more jobs, and having to do things for the bands as well. I think having all that extra headspace was what made it a lot easier for me to do it. So I'm quite, in a strange way, I'm kind of grateful to that amount of free time and headspace lockdown gave me, because otherwise I might still not have properly started this project.
Yeah.
Mm.
And on the kind of surface of things, like obviously this and Cassus and your other bands are very, it's quite a sort of a gap between the two sort of thing, like
Yeah.
musically. So I guess like on obviously sort of like through friends and things, like a lot of people have met you through those bands. So when you kind of released this, it's a bit of a left turn in some aspects. So what's the kind of general response been to what you've put out so far? Have people been surprised? Have people liked it? Like, or are you aiming it at a completely different audience?
Um, it seems to have been very positive. Yeah, I don't really know how to gauge that kind of thing, because I don't have a lot of experience with promotion and stuff like that.
Right.
That's one of the things, like I kind of mentioned earlier, not being the best at like posting
Yeah.
regularly online and stuff. It's never been one of the things that I've had a huge amount of skill with, I don't think. So I've been learning a little bit more about that as well, with this new project, because it is, it's entirely being a one person project. If I don't do it, nobody else will. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
aware that I have to put more energy and more thought into that than maybe I have done before. And the response there has been pretty positive, I think. Like that, so far, I've only put out one song. I've got a second one finished, which we're making a music video for at the moment. So when that's done, that'll be coming out sometime in the next couple of weeks. So I've not had a lot of content to get responses from yet. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with how yeah I'm happy with how people responded to the first song. Like oh, I'm getting a bit of feedback from myself there. Sorry. Yeah, I'm happy with how people responded to the first song. I got a handful of positive comments, and it's I don't think it's attracted a huge following or anything yet, so it's kind of hard for me to say really.
Yeah.
And in terms of target audience, it would be nice if a lot of the people who like the other bands were into it, but I am aware that because, like you said, it's quite a big left turn in terms of the style. I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of the audience for the other bands weren't necessarily into this project, and
Yeah.
I'm just aware that I have to accept that that's quite a likely possibility about what will happen. So yeah, I think some people who like Cassus will enjoy it, but I think yeah, probably the majority of the audience for this project in the long run will be a bit different, I imagine.
Mm. And
Yeah.
in terms of kind of lyrics and things like that, because obviously you've kind of a lot of it's kind of been written, as you say, sort of during lockdown and things like that. Is it have sort of themes and things carried across from Cassus, or have you taken this as a completely new approach and written lyrics from scratch for this?
Yeah. Um, I think some of the themes have carried across a little bit because especially in the most recent Cassus record, I was writing some stuff that was quite personal anyway, just
Mm.
about sort of I guess the focus of the Cassus lyrics is often a little bit more philosophical and political,
Yeah.
so it's sort of it's either like a commentary on things that are happening in the world or a kind of a lot of the Cassus songs are kind of like an analysis of things, emotional things, or an analysis of how things in the world affect me and maybe other people kind of psychologically. So it's a little bit more yeah, I think Cass's lyrics are a bit more analytical in that sense. They kind of read a bit like miniature philosophical essays or something, or at
Yeah.
least that's how I imagine them. I don't know if that's how other people perceive them, but that's how it feels when I'm writing them. So this is a little bit more. Some of those themes carry across in the way that I'm thinking about the same stuff, and it's this music is definitely focused even more on sort of personal experiences and feelings.
Mm.
Um, the first song was very much kind of about melancholy and nostalgia for kind of like good times and sort of you know feeling sad about good times sort of slipping by and how time like speeds up when you're having a good time and then it slows down when you're kind of like on your own reflecting on it and you kind of can feel a little bit isolated or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the lyrics to this new project, in a sense, are a bit simpler in the way that they focus just more about personal experiences. Maybe some of the songs will be a little bit more like trying to create an ambience of a certain feeling or being about sort of memories and experiences that I've had more specifically, whereas the Cassis lyrics are a little bit more conceptual.
Yeah. And I know it's still very sort of early days with this project, but have you kind of got sort of plans and aspirations of where you want it to go? Like, obviously, I know at the moment playing shows isn't an option, but is that something that you're looking at considering later on down the line, or are you just kind of playing things by ear at the moment?
Um, yeah, I'm kind of playing things by ear really, but I definitely have a vague vision in mind. Like I'd like to make it a bit more um a sort of a bit more of a professional project if possible. It's the kind of music that I know it's more easily accessible, but I'm
Yeah.
also aware that in this kind of music there's also a lot more competition because there's you know uh yeah, music that's more melodic and more accessible is also the fact that it's more popular means that there's a lot more people doing it. So there's
Yeah,
more pressure in terms of like really having to stand out in terms of quality and the, you know, doing things as well as you can in order to make any kind of impact. So I would like to, yeah, I'd like it to be kind of a serious project in the long run, but we will, yeah, I'll just have to wait and see and play it by ear. I definitely want to do shows with it at some point, but I think in this genre of music in particular, um, shows seem to be something that happens a little bit further down the line when you've already kind of recorded quite a bit of music and gained a little bit of a following online.
yeah,
Whereas in the kind of in the like band scene, the ethos is more like get some songs written and start playing shows as soon as you possibly can, and you gain
yeah,
your
yeah,
following through the shows. But I think with this kind of music, most of the following is gained before people have seen you live. It seems to be more of an online based community. So I'm gonna try and approach it that way. So it's
yeah.
gonna be quite a different process, I think, to my experience playing in bands.
Yeah, because a friend of mine, he's kind of similar in some aspects, but he does more on the sort of DJ side of things than kind of the actual
Yeah.
sort of lyric based stuff. And he sort of like kind of same thing, like came from a background of playing in heavy bands, but then started doing all these beats and sort of lo-fi stuff.
Yeah.
And as you say, like I think he put out about 3 EPs before he'd even done his first show, sort of thing. So
Mhm.
it's obviously that's the kind of mindset that a lot of people have going into that world.
Yeah, it seems to be. And I think also with this kind of music, perhaps because the music is kind of it's more focused on the production, especially in the songs on record, they're very production heavy compared to a lot of heavy music. Um, so to try and recreate that sound live, I think might be a little bit more difficult than recreating the sound. The intensity of a heavy band live is difficult in the sense that you need good quality equipment, which is
Yeah,
expensive, like
yeah,
you know, guitar amps and a drum kit and a half decent microphone and PA. But I think with this kind of music, it's better suited to bigger venues that you know that if you've got you really need like a sound person giving you some kind of live mix, which a lot of DIY shows don't have at all. You have to kind of do your own live mix. But especially if you're a one person project, there's not enough of you to kind of be on top of all the things in that DIY sense. So
mm.
yeah, I think this kind of music is better suited to venues that will have like a sound engineer who's helping your sound and like a really quite good quality sound system because a lot of the instrumentals are going to be coming through the PA as well as the
Yeah,
vocals. So the live mix is kind of is happening more on the sound desk and less on the stage because with heavy bands, the live mix is often coming from the guitar amps themselves.
yeah.
But with this, pretty much the vast majority of the mix is all going to be coming through the PA. So you need to rely heavily on the quality of that, if you see what I
Mm.
mean.
And just in terms, like, you may not be able to answer this, I don't know, but like, just in terms of that kind of sort of live setting in some aspects, like as you said, sort of going to see Nothing Nowhere and that kind of inspiring you, sort of thing. Like, have
Mm.
you kind of looked into that world at all of like, I don't know, potential sort of contacts or things like that, or is it too early to sort of be even sort of like considering thinking about like how you'd go about booking a tier show sort of thing?
I've been looking into sort of connecting with people a little bit online, like on a couple of like Facebook groups and things. Following people on SoundCloud and Instagram and talking a little bit to artists I like, but I still don't really know. I still don't really know exactly where I'm going to start in terms of like booking shows.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to have to keep talking to more people and sort
yeah,
of and get more of a get a bit more involved in the community. I think. Yeah, that is the main downside, I suppose, is with this change in musical style is that because there's not a huge amount of overlap in the people who like Cassus and the people who might like this. I don't know personally many people who are into this kind of music yet, so I think I need to sort of meet more people who are in this scene.
Yeah. And just in terms of kind of getting back onto Cassus as well, I know obviously things have kind of come to a bit of a stop at the moment because of lockdown and stuff, but obviously we're starting to see an ease of things, and stuff is starting to open, and I've seen a couple of other bands have started going back into practice spaces and things like that. So is that a conversation that you guys have had of like when you potentially could be getting back in a room together, or are you still very tentative at the moment?
We haven't had it yet. A little bit tentative. I think because of I'm sure you've seen in the news the idiotic behaviour of a lot of people in the UK,
Yeah.
especially with this fiasco with the beach, where like everyone was basically cramming together on the same beach. With people behaving like that, I think it's probably wise for us to wait at least a couple of weeks until wait at least a couple of weeks after lockdown is over,
Yeah.
just to see how bad the second wave of the virus is going to be, because I've got strong suspicions that it's going to be quite bad, just judging by the stupid behaviour of a lot of people in this country.
Yeah.
It's a bit embarrassing. Hopefully we'll start doing practices properly again within the next month or so. But yeah, we haven't had the conversation as a band properly yet.
That's
So
cool. Fair enough. Right.
yeah.
Well, as always with these things that I've been doing every Sunday, I've put the question out if anyone's got any questions for you. So I've got a couple. One's a silly one, and then I've got a couple of serious ones.
Okay.
The silly one is from Ollie Harvey of Yotnar fame.
Oh yeah. Hi, Ollie.
He says, "How do you maintain your lovely locks?"
um. Well, I mean, mostly it's just luck, really. They're just they're curly. Like I don't perm my hair or anything, if that's what he's wondering. Just shampoo and conditioner a few times a week. That's all I can say, really. Brush your hair every day.
That's cool. And then I've got two serious ones from the same dude. Good friend of mine, Luke Fisher. He's put.
Oh yeah.
He put. What Cassus lyrics mean the most to you?
Mm. Hmm. That's a tricky question. A lot of them are all kind of connected. Like I like to do songs that kind of reference one another, so that all the songs on the record kind of feel like they're part of the same vibe, if you see what I mean. But I think some of my favorite lyrics are in the most recent record. I guess that's probably always going to be the case with someone who writes lyrics. Like the most recent stuff they'll probably always prefer that because it's the most relevant to them at the time. But I'm just trying to remember the name of the song. Oh yeah, the song's called "Have You Considered a Balanced Diet?"
Yeah.
We never actually say the song names at band practices, so
Yeah,
I
I know that feeling.
forget what the actual songs are called. Yeah, it's the one with the guitar intro, and I quite like the lyrics on that one because they're about they kind of represent a big part of the message of that record, which is about the sort of the need for harmony and balance in both psychologically but also physically in the world. So I was quite when I was writing that record, I was really inspired by Taoism, the ancient Chinese philosophy.
Okay.
And um, the first Taoist book called the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I don't know how he says it now. I think it's like Lao Tzu or Lao Tzu.
Right.
It kind of it's a book of philosophy, but it reads more like a poetry book. But even though it's like a really old book, like couple. It must be like, I think, can't remember when it's from, but it's like 1,000 years old or something. You know, it's
Yeah,
a really old book, one of the oldest sort of religious or philosophical books around, I think. Um, but I found it really inspiring because it was such an old book, but the kind of message it sent seemed extremely relevant to the world today, which is about everything everything in the world being kind of part of one whole. So there's sort of the human concept of everything being separate and being able to kind of divide things into categories. It's kind of talking about how that is really that view of the world is an illusion projected onto our surroundings by people as a way for us to think about stuff. But in reality, all all creatures and objects are made of the same energy, and they share. We are part of our environment. And our environment is part of us.
yeah,
The minerals that make up it kind of adds up with modern science as well, which is partly why this philosophy is so amazing because it was before any of this science existed or had been discovered, but it really hit the nail on the head with a lot of the way kind of matter and energy works. Like um, inanimate objects and living creatures are all made up of the same kind of minerals and a part of the same kind of currents of energy and things like that. And when you die and decompose, your component parts go back into the environment and
yeah,
are
yeah,
reformed as other things. So this view of everything being part of a greater whole is a very poignant philosophy to me. I think when you look at a lot of the problems in the world today, like people's mental health problems often being, at least in part, caused by imbalances in society and to do with kind of poverty and oppression and things like that. And all of these things are rooted on sort of further down the line in all these injustices and kind of stresses and suffering that is caused to people is caused somewhere down the line by other people kind of having this kind of flawed philosophy where they look at the world in a very materialistic kind of greedy way, and they do things for the wrong reasons. So people are making decisions about everyday life based on financial gain, which is this kind of illusory short-term gain, as opposed to sort of improving people's sort of state of mind and making things sustainable and keeping the environment healthy, that kind of thing.
yeah.
So anyway, that's a very long-winded response to
That's cool,
the,
man.
what
And the other thing that he asked is, do you have a favorite song from each of your albums so far?
Um, yeah, I think from that newest album, maybe my favorite song is the last one, which is called "Reduced Possibility Engendered Determinism,"
Yeah,
because it kind of, at least for me as a vocalist, lyrically, it's the song that kind of summarizes the whole record. So it's kind of
yeah,
like it goes back over the themes that were in a lot of the other songs. So lyrically, for me, I find that satisfying because it's kind of got lots of different meanings in it. And I also like how it's got quite a variety of different sounding musical styles. So there's like a really fast, heavy bit, and then there's a kind of like slightly more almost metalcore sounding bit, and I've got a soft spot for that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And then there's like a sort of then there's like a sort of sad, clean emo bit at the end, and obviously I'm really into the sort of clean emo music as well. So for
yeah,
me, it's like a box that checks a lot of the boxes of the stuff that I enjoy.
yeah.
And on the first record, uh, I'm just thinking through what all the songs are in my head because I haven't played any of them for ages now.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't played any of the Cassus songs for ages because of lockdown, but then before lockdown, we were focusing on writing the new stuff. So
yeah, yeah.
it's probably well over a year since I've played some of these songs. So just remembering what they are. Um, I was quite I was quite one of my favorite songs on that record was Tired of Being Tired,
Yeah,
which is again I think I liked it because it went in a few different directions. There's like a really fast heavy bit, then there's a sort of emo singing sort of chorusy bit in the middle, and then it goes into like a sort of like June Pike inspired sort of slightly black metal screamo outro. So
Yeah,
yeah, I really enjoy songs that kind of go in different directions like that. They're a bit kind of a bit unpredictable and
yeah.
sort of, yeah, to me more interesting to play.
And it's just kind of dawned on me one thing that I wanted to ask as well. In terms of kind of like your lyrical, well, sorry, your vocal style with Cassus, and obviously what you're doing now, again, is it vary in style kind of thing. So when you were getting around to recording the Tear stuff, did you kind of, I don't know, how did you approach it sort of vocally? Because I'm not saying like you're just you're very used to screaming, because obviously in the Cassus
Mm.
stuff there is more melodic and sung stuff in that. But was it kind of a weird transition for you, like just going to a completely different style, or again was that something that you wanted to sort of challenge yourself with?
Um, I'd say both. Yeah, it was a weird transition, a bit intimidating because when you go to something so much sort of lighter sounding
Mm.
in terms of you know, being much less intense to listen to. I think the vocals are, you focus much more on the vocals, and
Yeah,
you can hear the tiny imperfections in them with much more detail. So I think it was a bit intimidating, feeling like, okay, you know, I need to set my standards pretty high with the clean vocals because they're much more in focus than they have been in bands before. And yeah, with Cassus, I think like the heavy bits outweigh the clean bits. You know, they end up being they're the most important part really in that band.
yeah,
So this is definitely a change in gear, switching focus to this other side of it. So it's intimidating, but also I enjoy doing things differently, and I definitely get itchy feet in terms of creativity and sort of feel like I want to try doing things differently every now and again. So
yeah,
for me, that was part of the appeal for sure, like a new challenge and sort of a way to sort of broaden my skills a little bit, hopefully.
yeah. Cool. Well, how I've kind of been wrapping these little chats up is obviously everyone in music and whatever is missing going to shows and things like that. That's the obvious. But is there
Mm.
kind of one specific thing that you're really looking forward to about kind of going back to normality in some aspects?
Yeah, like you said, yeah, you kind of preempted the obvious answer from a musician because yeah, going to shows is obviously going to be one of the things that we most miss. But I'm quite looking forward to just being able to go and sort of meet up with people in coffee shops
Yeah,
and pubs and just kind of feel like I'm actually a part of some kind of community because it can be very isolating in lockdown, I think.
yeah, yeah,
Just being able to sort of, you know, casually arrange to meet someone in town or something and just hang out somewhere is going to be nice to be able to do again for
yeah.
sure. Um, it seems like a bit of a basic, simple one, but I think it makes a big difference.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I've barely seen anyone apart from like my immediate family like for months. So I'm very much in that boat
Yeah.
as soon as like the possibility of being able to drive somewhere and actually like hang out with someone and not have to worry about, oh, I can't be a certain amount of distance away from them. Like that's going to be a massive weight off my shoulders. So I totally get that feeling.
Yeah, yeah, it's been the same for me. I've only been seeing like two people really for the majority of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah, just my mum and my girlfriend, and aside from that, yeah, haven't seen anyone in the bands and stuff for months. So yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with people. Meeting up with people in person definitely is satisfying in a way that even chatting via video is better than nothing, but yeah, actually meeting up with someone in person and having a proper catch up does feel different, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. But yeah,
Mm.
perfect. Brilliant. Natty, thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Looking forward
Yeah,
to
thanks
hearing
for having
more
me.
tier stuff, and hopefully we'll see Cassus sooner rather than later as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, and thanks again for having me. It's nice
No,
to
thank
chat
you,
to
man.
you.
Anyway, take it easy, dude.
You too. Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.